In this video, I'm going to be showing you how to make generative art that creates a rainbow spiral on your screen. So the first thing we're going to do is add in rect, capital M-O-D-E, and then in parentheses, all caps center, so that we're coding for the center of the rectangle. And we're also going to add in angle mode degrees. The computer will automatically default it to radians, which we're not as familiar with, so we're going to change it to degrees instead of radians. All right, so after we do this, we're going to make a few variables, and then we're going to have a rectangle basically in the center of our screen that rotates. So we're going to go right in between function setup and function draw and create a variable called size, which we're going to set equal to 10, a variable called speed, which will be equal to 3, and a variable called angle that we're going to set equal to 0. And you can choose to have different numbers here. You can play around with different values and see how they impact your design. So we're going to make our rectangle at 0, 0, and then we're going to make it size, size for the height and the width. And I'm going to show you guys how to use translate here. So you have to use it above the shape, but you can basically translate something and it'll move it as much as you say. So I'm going to move 300 for the X and 200 for the Y. So now it's at 300, 200 instead of 0, 0. And I'm going to just change that to 250. So now we've translated this rectangle that was originally at 0, 0 to be at 250, 200. We're also going to rotate it by the angle. So rotate, and then in parentheses, I'm going to put angle. And right now, nothing's really moving, but I'm going to add in angle equals angle plus 1, and that's going to cause it to move around in a circle to the right. All right, so now we have it moving, and we're going to make it grow and move around at the same time. So we're going to say size equals size plus speed, and that's going to increase the size by whatever we said the speed was. So now 60 times every second, it's getting bigger by a factor of 3. You'll see that it really quickly gets big enough where you can't really see it anymore. So we're going to say if the size is less than 10 or size is greater than 1,000, then what I want to happen is I want our speed to equal negative speed. So if it's growing and it gets too big, I want it to shrink. And if it shrinks too small, I want it to get big again. All right, I'm going to apply a stroke weight, capital W, of 2 to my rectangle, and I'm going to add in no fill. And adding in no fill is going to make it so that I just see all the lines. In this project, we're not going to fill it with different colors. We're going to apply different colors to the stroke or the outline of the shape. So I'm going to make 3 more variables, one for R, set to random, and then in parentheses 200, so a random number up to 200. I'm going to do the same thing for G and B. All right, now I'm going to make what I want my R, G, and B to increase by. So I'm going to make 3 more variables called R2, G2, and B2, making those a random number between 1 and 3. So I'll do 1, 3. And I'm going to do that exact same thing. So I'm just going to copy and paste this line. Copying and pasting and coding will save you a lot of time. So we're going to practice that today a little bit. So I'm going to copy that and paste it. And now I just have to change the R to a G and to a B. All right. So now I am ready to add in some conditional statements to help control the color and some math statements to change the color. And then very last, I'll add the color into my shape. All right, so I'm going to just spread out my code a little bit, and I'm going to say R equals R plus R2. I'm going to do the same thing for G and B. And you'll see nothing's changing yet because nothing's going to change until our very last line where we actually apply it to the shape. All right, now I'm going to go down and I'm going to make the conditional statements for this. And I'm going to say if, in parentheses, R is less than 0, or, in that or button, you press shift and it's right below your backspace to make the 2 straight lines. So or R is greater than 200, then I want R2 to equal negative R2. So it's basically the same idea. If the color gets too high, if the color number gets too high or too small, just like the size we talked about earlier, then I want it to go the opposite way. I don't want it to grow by that color, I want it to shrink by that color. And the reason that we do a random one for that is so that it's different every time that we reload it. And you can see I just copy and pasted this 3 times. So I have one for R, one for G, and one for B. Copying and pasting is a really, really useful tool, but you're going to want to double check that you fix everything and change it, or it's going to impact the design that you see. And it might make it so your code doesn't even work, depending on what you do wrong. So now I'm going to apply the stroke of R, G, and B, making sure that you put it above your rectangle. And you can see that it is changing colors and it's getting big. And then when it gets too big, it's going to shrink down and reappear on the canvas again. So like I said, this is a really fun project to play around with. Change the colors up, change the random parameters, change the size, the speed, the angle. There's a lot of different ways that you can change this project to make it a unique piece of generative art. Thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with all of our newest videos.